So many outside stimuli coming at you and saying you don't have enough time, you need to rush, you need to hurry up, you got to cover all this content. The system is set up to make us feel as if we do not have time to take a breath on purpose. Because if we're all so busy running and then blaming each other for feeling tired, we don't have the time to grow. We don't have the time to reflect. We don't have the time to realize how the system has been stacked against us. Welcome to Reimagining Science, episode 3. So much to get into. It is officially April, and you know what that means. It's time for the check-in. I said that like I've been doing this. This is more than the third month that I've been doing it, but here we are. Either way, so let's make it do what it do. So much to share. One thing that happened in March is that I got some merch. Usually before a check-in recording, I have done a bit more like writing out and fleshing out my reflections. But this was heavy. I just really felt the need to just get on and start talking about some things today because I feel like this needs to be out in the world. First of all, it is April 3rd. On Monday, Senator Cory Booker finished a marathon of holding the Senate floor for over 25 hours. And I don't agree with all Cory Booker's politics, but what he did was something. And with everything going on in the world right now, with everything going on in the U.S. specifically, that was powerful to see, particularly since most of the marathon holding of the Senate's floor has been against the Civil Rights Act, against healthcare, for Republican, conservative, horrendous causes. In fact, the record that Senator Booker broke was Strom Thurmond's record that he held as he tried to filibuster the civil rights movement. And so there's so many things there and so many pieces of it to unpack. I'll do a whole episode dedicated to that later. But just like in general, as I was watching, as I've been reading about it, as I've been unpacking, I just like had so many things that I thought about of like work can be urgent and not be rushed because preparation is key. Okay. This man stopped eating Friday and stopped drinking anything Sunday so that when he started talking on Monday night, he wouldn't have to use the restroom until he was done. There's preparation there. And there's like pre-preparation for that he did when he didn't even know he was preparing for that moment, right? So like that's been on my mind of just like, yes, there is urgency to a situation. Yes, there is urgency to fixing and transforming science education, but that doesn't mean rush it because it needs to be done well. It's also been reminding me of like the reason why it's so important that each and every one of us stand up, speak up, and not be cowed into silence is because when we stand up and we are brave and we do the things, it inspires the next person. And it's been multiple times where somebody in my building has told me like, you know, I wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have done that, but I'm glad you did. And I'm glad I know now that I can do this. And so that is so important. And like I said, I will be unpacking this a lot over the next little bit. But again, like I do think the things that I want to get out and put out from like my reflections on it are urgent. But like I said, like urgency doesn't beget rushing. So that's been on my mind. I believe I've shared before, I am leaving the classroom at the end of the school year and I am moving back home, home-ish to my home state. And I'll be staying with my sister and her husband to help them with, you know, childcare and but also like I've really been having this sense of the importance and the need for community right now and really all the time, but especially right now. So when we look back at hard times throughout history, it's people that have had strong community ties and strong senses of community that are able to persist and persevere. And I especially feel like it's very, very important to build those communities and those villages around children, which is a big part of the reason I chose to do this. But also because as science teachers who are dedicated to liberatory education, any teacher who's dedicated to liberatory education, having a community is so important. And having someone to dream with and imagine with and brainstorm with, all of that is so, so, so important. So important. The work that I want to do with my business, with this podcast, it is so limited by me having to go to work full time. I love teaching. I love teaching. I adore teaching. And it takes so much energy and creativity that I am not able to embed and invest into this, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this as well. So yeah. But what that means is I'm in the middle of packing. I'm in the middle of like winding down. I have spring break next week. Praise Jehovah. Your girl is tired. Okay. I'm a great teacher. That doesn't mean I don't get tired. Okay. We all get tired. We all get to a point. We all have days where we're just like, y'all might want to leave me alone today. You know? I actually did not have one of those days today. The day that I'm recording this. Today, though, I did have not an incident, just something that happened in my class that I was telling one of my coworkers about later. And she was like, I'm really impressed with how you handled the situation. She was like, because somebody else might have handled it in a way that caused problems or caused a child to get in trouble or penalize a child for having a reaction that was reasonable. She said that because of something a child said and did in my class that in another context would have gotten this kid in trouble. But because I pay attention to the context, I was like, no, I'm not punishing this kid for this. I'm not even going to say anything to her about it. I'm just going to be like, hey, so we can't do that. Here are some options we have for how we can manage these emotions. But when she said that, it did remind me of like, this is why it is so important as teachers that we have flexibility in our spirits, that we don't go, well, this is the rule and the rule is the rule and I'm sticking to it. That we remove ourselves from these ideas of like, it is what it is, because context matters. Context always matters. It matters in the science that we're teaching. It matters in our relationship with students. It matters with students' behavior. And being able to create liberatory spaces, being able to teach science in liberatory ways, depends on us being open to the context. And that brings me to why this is now reimagine science education. I'm a name girl. I really love a good name. I love a good word. I am such a word nerd. I love a good word. I have been searching for like the right name for this podcast. I still love a Mother Trucking Vibe. Don't get me wrong. It's still going to be around. But I was talking to a friend, one of my homegirls. She's getting ready for a job talk. And she was texting me and another of our friends about potential titles. And as we were going back and forth about her title, she texted me and was like, this really reminds me of your work, Jordan. I see you reinventing science education. And I was like, oh, that's dope. And then she put like, or as our other friend would say, reconstructing. And I was like, oh yeah. Reimagining and reconstructing. That's what I do. And so that's where the name came from. And because I do think that's so important. I know a lot of times what happens when we want to embody liberatory education, we want to be liberatory science teachers. We believe science education is liberation. It's overwhelming to think of, okay, but what do I do? How do I make it different? We want there to be a solid plan. The hard part is that liberation requires us to build something that has not yet been built. It requires us to create what has not yet been created. And so before we can have this liberatory education, before our classrooms can be liberated, can be spaces of liberation for us and our students, we have to first imagine it. We have to create it. We have to construct it. And so when she said that, I was like, yes, that's it. That's the one. That's where this name came from. It is why if you're in Rockstars, the pocket PDs that we have in Rockstars, you can subscribe to them as a podcast on your feed, and they are called Reimagining and Reconstructing. If you subscribe to those on your podcast app, you'll see that, and you'll see that cover. I am very, very excited for the work that is coming, for everything that I have coming up with his Dr. J, and I'm going to be working super hard next week. I'm on spring break, putting some things together and putting them out and getting things pre-done and scheduled for that May, June time while I'll be moving and Things will be chaotic. So exciting things are happening. And which brings me to the real, like the main reason why I was like, I just need to talk today. I need to record this today. I go on spring break next week. I know a lot of people have already had spring break. When I get back, we have 2 weeks until our state test. I know it's like the time of year where everybody's feeling the pressure. It's crunch time, and there's so many outside stimuli that are coming at you and telling you that you need to push. There are so many outside stimuli coming at you and saying you don't have enough time. You need to rush. You need to hurry up. You got to cover all this content. You got to get it done. There's so much outside stimuli telling you, if you haven't given kids on a test on it, like your kids haven't been tested on this yet, how will you know if they know it? And what I want to tell you is to stop. Take a deep breath and see everybody in that classroom as a person. Realize that you can understand if they know it without testing them on it. Understand that you can prepare them for testing without giving them endless test questions. Understand that students experiencing joy and safety and comfort in your classroom in the lead up to state testing is going to help them perform better than them experiencing anxiety and fear and apprehension. Internalize that it's going to be okay. That a state test season comes and goes every year, and every year you survive it. That burning yourself out and burning them out is helping no one. That the system is set up to make us feel as if we do not have time to take a breath on purpose. Because if we're all so busy running and then blaming each other for feeling tired, we don't have the time to grow. We don't have the time to reflect. We don't have the time to realize how the system has been stacked against us. So I just want you to pause. I want you to remind yourself that you're good. And I want you to take some time for your students to remind them that too. That no matter what happens, they're still worthy. You still care for them. You still love them. They're still going to be amazing people. They'll still have opportunities. We want to encourage them to do their best. I definitely recommend that test anxiety activity and the affirmations activities that I have inside of the Patreon. If you're a member, you have access. If you're a member of the lab or Rockstars, you already have access. And if during this time, even as you are providing this space for students, you are trying to be mindful that they're experiencing a lot of big emotions. If your students are a little more out of hand than normal, if you find yourself just feeling a little bit more than normal, before you snap off, ask yourself, okay, are they doing something abnormal, or am I just a little sensitive today? Well, okay, they are doing something abnormal. Is it because they're overwrought today? Is it because we've been in school for 5 straight weeks with no breaks and everybody? Is it because, yeah, I'm giving them a little break in here, but they had a test a week in their math class? And that's not saying is let kids talk, get away with everything. But it's saying when you respond, be mindful. And just like, hey, I know you're stressed out, but I don't think I deserve that. I know you're stressed out, but I just want you to ask yourself, do you think what you just said to me was appropriate? And have a conversation instead of immediately jumping into punitive or responding from our own emotions. Because look, it happens to me all the time. All the time. I was telling one of my coworkers today, I was like, one of the things that I feel like been most beneficial to me as I've grown as a teacher is realizing how to stop and ask myself, is my class acting a fool? Or are there 3 kids that are a little out of pocket and are making me feel overstimulated. And 95% of the time, these 3 kids are making me feel overstimulated. And often it's not even that they're doing anything wrong. It's just that it's a lot for me right then. And even when they are doing something that's a little out of pocket, I was telling her that I was like, I have found myself in the middle of just like, and y'all know better and da 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 da, and realized as I was saying it that 27 of the 30 kids didn't do anything wrong, and had to course correct in the middle and be like, and I know most of you didn't do anything to deserve this, and I'm sorry. But I think that's important because it shows kids that we're human too. And in this time of year, what happens a lot, why a lot this time of year can be so overwhelming for us, is because it's so overwhelming for kids and admin. Kids tend to revert into like a little bit more selfishness than they might have normally, and get real demanding, real round in the building, which when you are overwhelmed feels even worse than normal. And so just stopping, I can't say how often I just stop and go, hey, I need you to remember that I'm human too. How would you like, I just want, if somebody did or said to you what you just did or said to me, how would you feel? And often that's all I have to do, and I'll get an apology and the behavior is corrected. And sometimes we have to have those meetings as a whole class. And if you need to have that whole class meeting, that whole class conversation of, hey, don't forget that I, your teacher, am also human, do it. Do it. It'll make your year be a lot easier. And you can get back to the business of learning some science. Like I said, it's a very busy time of the year. It's a chaotic time of the year. Can be a very exhausting time of the year. So my friend, get some rest, find some joy, and find some silliness, because often when we take ourselves a little less seriously, it's a lot easier to learn and a lot easier to show up. So that has been our time today. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Reimagining Science. I'll see you next week.